Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Sales for Breakfast is coming in hot, talking to photographers. So, if you're a photographer and listening right now, make sure that you stay for the entire 20-30 minutes because I am so excited to deliver some really important information to you. So, building a photography business is a very specific niche. And today I have my friend and my client, Ingvalid, here to talk about exactly how you turn that hobby-based photography business into full-time joyful income. I think this is a really, really important topic that I'm super excited to talk about because I have a lot of creatives in my space that follow me, that look to me for sales advice. And specifically with a photography business, it's really important that you're doing certain things to build that business of your dreams. And the reason why I wanted specifically to have this right now is we're going into a big season for a lot of photographers that do anything holiday-ish, right? And then B is you might be reflecting on your business over the last 3 quarters and saying, gosh, how do I make this less of a hobby and more full-time income? But you might be thinking, I have no idea how to do that because perhaps your business isn't set up for it. Maybe your niche of photography isn't going to support your lifestyle. You aren't sure what to do with your pricing and all of these things. So if that's you, then stick around. And if you have a friend that would benefit from this, make sure that you tag them because that's what we're here to do. We're here to help each other build beautiful businesses. So with that being said, welcome, Ingvalid. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. I'm good. I'm so excited about this.
Yay! All right. So give us a little introduction about you and how you're helping photographers.
Yeah, so my name is Ingvild. I'm from Norway and I'm a business educator for photographers. So I know that a lot of photographers start out and they want to take the beautiful images. Same with all creatives. They want to create, they want to do the fun things. And then it slowly or quickly becomes more of a, is it possible to make a living from this? Can I do this full time? And then they're still kind of stuck in like, I just want to create. The business side is just so foreign to them. And I've seen so many photographers burn out. I've seen so many super talented photographers quit. And I know that for me, I've been a photographer for over a decade, and I've always been more passionate about the business side, about teaching others about like how they can improve their business. So that became my specialty. That's my passion. That's what I want to talk about. That's where I come in to kind of help and guide and structure things so that all the other stuff becomes easy and free up more time to create, basically.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this so much. And what I also love about what you do is you're very intentional with the type of business a photographer chooses to have. And the reason why I love that is as a business coach myself. And when people come to me, I'm like, are we building a business that supports not just your financial, but your lifestyle goals? And I think that it's a really important thing because if you build a business you hate, that is like, that is a path for disaster and burnout,
Mm-hmm.
like, even if it makes a ton of money. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, choosing the right business within a business?
Yeah. And the thing with that is, as a photographer or probably any creative, you look at those around you and you're like, ooh, that looks fun. Oh, I want to be like that person. I want to do what they're doing. And then you kind of just take some pieces from here and there and you're like, oh, this should be good now. Why isn't this working? And then you forget to kind of look within you and like, who am I? What do I really care about? What do I want to do? And you just do what other people do. And you're just kind of hoping that that's going to work. And I see that with people copying each other. Some people might be looking at my stuff as well. Like, oh, I'm going to use the same phrasing that she used on her website, or I like those colors. I'm going to use that. And then it's not going to work for you. And it just doesn't work to copy someone else. And even though it might in some cases, like maybe you do something and like, oh yeah, that worked, I'm going to do more of that. But you forget to just check out, is it what I want? And then
Right.
you're just going to burn out and you're just going to get exhausted, because if you haven't started there, if you haven't started looking at what is actually the right thing for you to do, it's just not going to work long term. And that whole sustainability aspect of it is so, so, so important. And hardly anyone really talks about it, because when you see educators, they're all about more. I just want more. Let's do more shoots. Let's make more money. And then no one stops to think, but am I happy? Is this what I want to do?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so important because happiness is what keeps us going in our business. Can you share
Mhm.
with us about a recent client that you've worked with that you helped kind of make that shift and what that looked like? Because I think that as people are listening there right now, they are resonating with what you're saying. They're like, oh my gosh, yes, no, I don't want to copy, but I don't know what else to do. And I
Mhm.
want to be uniquely me, but I don't know how to focus. So can you give us like a concrete example so that people can, really hear that and let it resonate with them?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of photographers that are kind of stuck in this. I would say like most of them are stuck in that I just want to do this thing, and all I care about are my photos, and people should just book me because of my photos and because they're nice.
Right.
So then you just kind of look around at others, and then you just take pieces like, oh, I want my brand to look like this based on someone else. And then, we sit down and we look at it together, and it's like, what are you actually trying to do with this? What do you want? And the answer is always like, um, I just want people to book me for my images. I don't really care about any of the other things. And then it just kind of stops there, because that intention is missing. That intention of like, but how can we do more of this? Because you can't just think, oh, I want to get booked based on my images. You need to think about your personality. You want to think like, I'm like this and I need clients that are like that for that to be a good match. So I can use myself as an example, because when I was starting out, I thought that all photographers had to be kind of like outspoken and be very funny and walk up to people and at weddings and be like, oh, do you want me to take your picture? Do something funny. Because that's what you saw. That was the norm almost. Um, and then I remember at this one wedding, I met a photographer at the same venue that I was shooting a wedding. And he was like chatting to everyone, asking questions and being like all that. He was at the roof at some point taking some pictures and getting people to do all sorts of crazy stuff. And I was like, I can never be a photographer if that's how it's going to be like, because that is not me. That's just not possible for me. And then after that day, it kind of dawned on me that, wait a minute, I'm just different. I'm the photographer that people want if they want someone in the corner, that are taking the discreet behind the scenes candid photos. So it became clear to me that my photos isn't enough. It's not enough for me to share photos that I think are nice, that I think people should book, because they need to know that this is who I am, this is my personality, and they should book me because of that. And that's when everything changed, because then you can just use your words, not just your photos, to really make it clear who you are and who you're the right photographer for. Because I can make my clients that want me, the quiet photographer in the corner taking the photos without bringing any attention to myself, I can make them happy. But if they're looking for someone who is taking up a lot of space and wanting to do a lot of things and getting attention and doing funny things with their photos, then they're never going to be happy with me. And I think that's where it all changes, when you realize you can never make everyone happy. You can only make a few people very happy, and those are the ones you need to focus on.
Okay, so I love that. I'm going to take it one layer deeper, just in case anyone has not checked out like your profile to see exactly what your photography looks like. And this now makes sense of why you do elopements. So let's expand on
Exactly.
that, because now you're like matchmaking your photography with the right couple. So share with that.
Mhm.
Share that with us.
Yeah, but that is exactly what it is. Like, when you do take it a step further, you realize and you allow yourself. I think that permission part of it is so important, that you not only have to realize, like, oh, I prefer smaller weddings, preferably only two people. I prefer to not have like all the staging and the big show. I just want to bring it down to the two people. That's what I prefer. But then you also have to allow that. You have to let yourself bring that in, which means you have to turn a lot of people down and say, sorry, I'm not going to be the photographer for your big wedding, because that's not what I do. And I think that goes both ways. It's not what I enjoy the most. And I'm not the one who would make them the most happy.
Right.
So I think that's why it goes both ways. So you're doing your people a service, a favor, if you say no, as well as if you focus on the one thing that you do want to do and that you're the best at.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And I can just imagine you, because we know each other so well, being like quietly behind the scenes during an elopement and like catching those really magical, beautiful moments of like an intimate photography session. So I think that this is so important. I would think that the biggest hesitation, and you tapped on this a little bit, is being scared to say no.
Yes.
Right. And saying, sorry, I'm not the right person for you. But if you have the right things set up in your business, that means you're saying yes to a heck of a lot more than you ever could before. So can you talk about that mindset shift from scarcity of saying no to opportunities, people who want to give you money, but why that actually leads to abundance?
And I think that's the thing that takes kind of the most effort to switch around, because you're so intent on that. But I want to photograph as much as possible. I can work with a lot of different kinds of people, and I'm sure you can. I can photograph a lot of different kinds of weddings and people. It's possible for me. I have the skills, but I'm not the best at it. So I can only be the best at a certain kind of thing. And when you realize that if you're going to say yes to a lot of different things, if I'm going to say yes to not only different kinds of weddings, but I'm also going to say no to, or say yes to, newborns and families and all the things, then that's going to take away time and energy and skill building in other areas to get really good at the other things. And if someone who is having my absolute dream elopement comes over to my website, for example, and then they see that, oh, this photographer does newborns and she does weddings and she does all the things, and she says that, oh, I'm the photographer for everyone, then there is no way, or at least a very low chance, that they're going to think, oh, this is the photographer for us. So
Right.
that's where you're going to win, because you only have a certain amount of time anyway. We all do. So that's the time you should spend kind of drawing in the people that are right for you. And I know that is a big shift, and I know a lot of people are really, really, really scared of it. But if you dare to do it, you're more likely to get booked by the people that you actually want to work with than you ever were if you were accepting everyone.
Yeah, I think this goes back to one of the famous marketing sayings that if you market to everyone, you market to no one.
Exactly.
And that is the lesson learned here. Now, can it be scary? Absolutely. But if you have mentorship to make the shift, it doesn't have to feel scary, because you can see the positive of the other side. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about like the niche within the niche and not targeting to everyone. Can you explain to us like other things that photographers need to be thinking about right now? And I think you have some specific examples of like what will help them be successful in the rest of 2022 and planning for their best year ever of 2023. Share with us like what photographers need to know.
Yeah. So one thing is that because we're in late October now, and it's easy to think like, oh, that was it. The year is over. I'm done. Didn't really go as well as I'd hoped. I might as well just give up. But there's 2 months left of this year, and you can still do so much with that. So I think it should start there, to think like, it's not over. I still have time. I can still do shoots. I can still sell albums and prints and things that people might want to gift each other for Christmas, for example. You can do Christmas mini shoots. There are so many things you can still do. And as a wedding photographer, you can take a lot of bookings in the next 2 months for next year. So it goes back to that thing of like deciding what do you actually want and then going for that, instead of just like, first of all, giving up. And second of all, maybe don't try to do all the things, but focus on one thing first. Like, okay, say that you're set on selling 3 albums before Christmas, then you should focus on that. Focus all your marketing efforts on that. Talking about albums and prints every single day on social media is a great start. You can't just do it once and expect that that should be enough.
Well, absolutely. I think a big thing here is where you put your energy is where the money goes. And I think this is a really important lesson. If it's not focused energy and it's scattered, you're not going to be effective. And that goes with every single business out there. And so being intentional and specific and focused is what can make the end of this year amazing. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It matters so much.
So much. Okay. So then what's next? So we figure out the rest of the year, we make a little bit of money, we feel confident, we're focused in our niche. What's next?
Well, the first thing I would say is you'll get a lot more much further if you take some time now and plan out next year. Because now, if you're at that place where you're like, oh, I didn't get to the place I wanted to, or as I see that many people also, they're also really busy now. They've got too much on their plate. They might be in the middle of getting those last shoots for Christmas ready. They might be wrapping up wedding editing, whatever it is. There are probably some things that didn't go completely as planned this year. And even if it did, if you plan, chances are that you're going to do a lot better next year. So actually, that's what I would do now. I would spend some time at the end of the year planning for next year.
Okay, I love it. And I know that you have a workshop that's coming up to help with exactly this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited because I've seen the behind the scenes of what you're creating and
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about if photographers are listening right now and they're ready to make 2022 like finish with a bang and structure 2023, break down what they can expect inside this workshop series that's coming up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where it starts with you getting clear on what you really want. Because if you're just going to keep doing the thing you're doing right now, yes, it might work. And it might be even better if you take really a clear look at what you want and then go for that instead. So that's the first thing. We look at your values and what truly matters to you, because often, of course, you have your values and you think like, yeah, I know what I care about, I know what matters to me. But if you've never like taken a deep dive into it, you don't really know, and you can't really base your decisions off that if you don't really know. So that's why we start there.
I agree so strongly with this because your values have to be your guiding light for every
Hmm.
business decision that you make, or you're going to create things you don't want that don't sell.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing that I see again and again. Back to that whole thing of photographers just emulating each other and be like, oh, I see someone doing that. That looks fun. I want to do that. But then when you look at your values, then maybe that doesn't resonate at all. Maybe you're focused on doing elopements and then deep down, you just want to stay at home with your family. So it's like, if you want to do destination work, then you should be the kind of person that values adventure and traveling and wanting to see the world, basically. So it has to add up. If not, you're going to burn out really quickly.
Yeah, I remember my photographer. I knew him in college, my photographer for my wedding. So it was, a very, very long time ago, like 12 years now. And he was a very good friend of mine from college. And he went into photography. And the first thing he did is he went into wedding photography. But he is this wild spirit. Like he's the guy who would get on the roof for the angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he is that person. He is the center of the center stage of anything he does. He's super adventurous. He'll take the risk. Now that worked great for me because I had a wedding of several hundred people and like that's what we wanted and it was really exciting and all the things. But I mean, after he did my wedding, I think maybe he did two more and then he's like, no more of this. And now he gets hired by companies to go and do like these really adventurous shoots. Like he'll climb mountains and go deep depths of the ocean. And like he's really made a name for himself as like this adventure photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And like I love my photos. He did a great job of my photos, but I totally see why he did this. And I'm sure like if I was to follow up with him, he's probably making way more money, enjoying life and like just doing his thing. So that's really the lesson in it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because if you just do what you think you should or what you're already doing and thinking like, oh, that this is what I do, this is how it has to be. And I just want to say, no, it doesn't have to be like that. So that's why starting at your values is really the first step.
Awesome.
And
So what's
once,
next? So we got our values, we're alignment. Like what's after
Mhm.
that?
Well, then I want us to take a look at what's been happening this year. What worked? What didn't work? What do you want to keep doing? What do you want to quit doing? Because again, if you don't know, then you're just going to keep doing the same thing and then hoping that something is going to improve or change. But that's not going to happen unless you make the active choice of actually changing something.
Yeah. So today I was reading an article. I read a lot. I love reading. And I was reading an article today and it's from HubSpot. So HubSpot is arguably the leader in sales CRMs and they have an amazing blog. If you don't listen to it, you really should. Anybody who's in business. And they came out with a report of what people, sales leaders and organizations and companies are reporting as one of their biggest challenges for now in 2023. And the top thing was data-driven decisions, how to make the best data-driven decisions. This is huge, friends. Huge for any size business. If you are a one-person photography shop to a Fortune 500 company, you still have to learn how to do these things at your own level. And you cannot make good decisions without data. I always say, bring the data, not the drama. Bring the data, not the drama. That is how you can make decisions in your business that are in alignment with what your growth goals are. So I really, really, really love that you're going to be helping people inside this workshop determine that.
Yeah. And one of my core things is to make things simple. So we're not going to like dig out any big fancy spreadsheets or anything. We're just going to make it really simple so that everyone can just do it in a few minutes. Because I think if something becomes too big and stressful, then we're not going to do it. So here it's more important that we just get it done. Look at what worked. Where did your actual bookings come from? What did you do? What didn't you enjoy doing? And then just making changes based on that. So that is an important next step to make.
I love it because you're adapting the strategy that you need for a photography business. Like, I love what you just said. You don't need to go data digging like a big organization. Let's just focus on what's important. And without having business mentorship, sometimes it's hard to know which data points to pay attention to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people waste a lot of time on, either that they're not doing anything or they're just stuck looking for the information. And yeah, that's why it's really helpful to have a mentor or someone guiding you to make the choices that you need to make.
Okay, and then what's next?
Okay, so the next thing is, once you know what's working and what isn't working, you need to figure out what you want. So we're actually going to make a vision board or a dream board, just gathering up all the things that we want our lives to look like, whether that is how we want to live, or if there are specific shoots that we want to do, whatever it is, like just get it on there as a visual reminder. And you can do this in any way. You can just write a list, but since this is for creatives and photographers especially, I'm thinking a visual thing would be the best thing. So that's what we're doing.
I love that. I am such a visual person. I've been doing vision boards forever. I have some on Pinterest. I have some that I print out and put inside my journal. Those visual anchors, like, this isn't fluff. That's science. Like, your brain works this way. It needs to visualize. So this is really important. And yes, because you're working with creatives and photographers, I'm sure they're going to be really pretty.
I'm sure, yeah. So I think that's something that's going to make it a little bit extra fun as well. It's something that we're doing that's kind of like, oh, let's go look for pretty photos. I think that's important as well, to remember that we're doing this because we want to. It's not like all really serious and we have to think about all the big terms and everything. Let's just visualize and use maybe our own photos. Maybe we're going to look for inspiration from Pinterest, like you said, but just to have that reminder, it is so powerful.
Absolutely. Okay. So we've gone through 3. What's the 4th?
The 4th is to set your actual goals. And this is where it becomes a little bit more tangible, because the vision board is more about the dream, like ideally, this is what I want my life to look like. This is what I want to draw in. But then your goals, they're so much more specific. So we're going to do both 5-year goals and next year's goals. And that can be anything from like, I want a new house, to I want another child, to I want to make twice the income that I had this year, like anything you want. But we want to make it really specific, something that we can measure and be really clear about, like, what does it take to reach that point, and what is it that we're actually wanting.
Yes, I love measuring. I love measuring. I know that's like such a weird thing to say, but I love measuring because it feels good. Like, I always say in sales, like, focus on the actions, not the outcome, and then the outcome will come. It might feel weird to say it, but it's so true. If you know what you need to do to produce a result, then just do what you need to do to get the result. And if you don't know what those steps are, it's really difficult to consistently get the results.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can work fine without goals. I mean, a lot of people do really well, but then, like, just imagine how far you could get if you dare to set some goals. Because if you have that goal in front of you, like, okay, so I want to make twice my income next year, then you know, like, okay, that's where I'm going. And then you need to think, okay, so what can I do to make that happen? Do I need to increase my prices? Do I need to try to book more clients? Do I maybe need to do some other kind of photography work than what I'm doing now? Maybe, you know, you need to change some things up. So it just becomes a lot more powerful and possible.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, there's always good stories about happenstance, success, or luck, or all of those things. But I think the key is sustainability and consistency. And for that, I really do believe you 100% need to be goal focused and know exactly what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and we'll wrap it up. The fifth thing.
Mm-hmm. So I actually made this huge wall calendar. So it's a template thing because the next or final step is to outline your calendar. And I know that for a lot of people that might sound a little bit scary, but we're not going to detail plan what you're doing in October 2023. We're just going to look at the big picture and see what do you actually want? What's important to you, which you know now because you know your values, you know what didn't work last year. And then you might be able to think like, okay, so last year I felt, or this year, I felt really busy. I didn't have time. I didn't have enough time with my family. I didn't have enough time to exercise, whatever it is. What can you make different about, how can you do that different next year? So maybe you want to set aside every other Tuesday to have a date night. Maybe you want to do yoga every Friday. But once you know that, you can add that to your calendar and kind of block those times. So if you see that, okay, so I wanted to double my income, and to be able to do that, I need to book more, I need to market more, I need to perfect my dream client profile. I need to learn how to do all that. And I feel like I haven't had the time for anything this year. But next year, I'm going to take every single Monday off to just learn. That's just what it's about. It doesn't mean that you have to put any timestamps on anything, just getting clear on what you want and just setting aside time.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I cannot wait to see everyone that completes their giant wall calendar. Hopefully
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be taking pictures of that because that
I
is so
know.
cool.
I know.
I would love, love, love to see that. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you so much for joining us today. I think that those are amazing 5 steps. Anyone that wants to go deeper and actually do this, go to the link that is listed on the banner on our video right now. We'll also be dropping the link into the comments section afterwards. And of course, just feel free to directly reach out to Ingvild if you have any questions. And I know you have an amazing Instagram and also a killer podcast. So there's lots of ways for people to stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because this is Sales for Breakfast, we have to talk about sales. So my last question as we wrap this up is, what would you say to someone? It can be photographers or any business owner or anyone in sales. Like, what would you say to someone who is hesitant to get visible today, go out there and ask for the sale?
I think it's a good question. And I think it's, since you're talking to someone that I assume isn't that big of a fan of sales, because they are a bit awkward about it and they don't really want to put themselves in that situation, the thing that has helped me the most is to think about selling as serving. And if you're not visible, if you're not asking someone if they're interested, then you're actually doing them a disfavor. And I can say that for 2 reasons. And the first one is that as a photographer for so many years, whenever someone's that I photographed before, I kind of meet them randomly on the street, for example, and they're like, hi, we feel really bad, but our photos are still on a hard drive somewhere. And then that's my fault. That's my fault for not making them aware of how important it is for them to actually print their photos or put them in an album. So I've done them a disfavor by not mentioning that, because they've spent a bunch of money with me getting their photos taken and then they're not actually seeing them. So that is a huge one. And another thing that I've realized in the last couple of years, where I've done a lot of rebranding and changing structures in my own business and with my mentoring, I've reached out to so many service providers and I've gotten help with a ton of stuff. But so often they have only ever offered me the one thing I've asked for. And I think in 90% of cases, had they offered me more, I would have said yes to more because I needed it, but I didn't know what I needed. So I think the biggest takeaway from that is that selling is serving. And if you have something people need, it's your job as the professional part to let them know that, hey, I think you're doing a good job, but things could be even better if you did this, and I can help you. Here's how.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I mean, just mic drop. It was perfect. Selling is serving. People are waiting for you to make an offer. So go out there, make an offer, and let's end 2022 with a bang, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you to everyone that listened. And let's make sure we get those links in the comments so that people can find you and join your workshop. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Minal. Bye.